Hi everyone, I'm Anna. I'm 65 years old, and for most of my life, I believed that love could mend anything. I was a tailor. I lived by that rule. But the hardest part of my story isn't the betrayal you'll hear about. It's the quiet, agonizing moment I realized that sometimes, the only way to save your heart is to cut the final thread. This is how I learned to shine for myself. I remember the smell of my childhood as the sharp, metallic tang of a sewing machine needle mixed with the warm, earthy scent of damp wool. It was a smell of work, but more importantly, it was the smell of security. I grew up an orphan, adopted late by two wonderful, kind people, my parents, who taught me that skill was survival and love was choice. When they died, they left me a small, quiet life, and a secret trust fund, a safety net I was never meant to touch unless I truly needed it. I kept that secret close, a precious, uncashed chip for a future I hoped would be brighter than my start. My real life, the one I stitched piece by piece, began the day I walked into a city orphanage and met Jacob. He was 3, small for his age, with eyes the color of old pennies, white and shadowed with a fear that mirrored my own childhood. His small hand fit perfectly in mine, a tiny anchor, and in that moment, I didn't just adopt a child. I chose a purpose. I chose love. I chose him. I worked. God, did I work. I opened my tailoring shop, Anna's Fine Stitches, operating on 3 hours of sleep and coffee that tasted like burnt ambition. Every late-night seam, every custom gown, every pair of expertly mended trousers was for Jacob. I missed school plays, skipped meals, and wore the same few dresses for years. My life was a single, fierce prayer, keep him safe. I remember one brutal winter. Jacob was 6, burning with a fever. I sat by his bed, his small hand gripping mine, his warmth against me, while I sewed through the night to pay for his medicine. That night, I wear upon him a little faded blue scarf. The wool was soft, and he'd wear it until the threads were worn thin. That scarf, that tiny, tangible link to the small, grateful boy, would later be my deepest heartache. I thought my unconditional love, my emotion, was enough to build an unbreakable family. I thought I was teaching him the value of hard work, not realizing I was conditioning him to expect my sacrifice. Decades of relentless work, however, couldn't beat the corporate giant. One by one, the big clothing brands and cheap online services bled my shop dry. I closed the doors for the last time 2 years ago. I kept my head high, thinking, Jacob's a man now, married, settled, we'll be fine. I signed the deed to the house I had bought and paid for with my tailoring money over to him and his wife, Mia, as a gift, a final, grand gesture of a mother's devotion. I assumed stupidly that I would always have a place in the home I had built. The day the news broke that the final sale of my shop's assets was complete and my only remaining income stream was gone, I told Jacob, Mia, and her mother, Helen. I stood in the living room, hands clutching the frayed hem of my apron, the air heavy with a silent tension. I expected a hug, a gentle word, a shred of understanding. Instead, Jacob's face twisted with a rage I had never seen. You're a burden now, he spat. His words cut through me like a blade, tearing my heart to pieces. Mia, lounging on the couch, tossed her hair and her smile was sharp and cold. Honestly, Anna, you're useless without that shop, she said. Maybe try cleaning houses. It's not like you've got real skills. Helen's laugh was a jagged edge. You can't stay here for free. I looked at the shelf where the faded scarf lay folded. The memory of the boy giggling as I wrapped it around his neck crashed over me. I wanted to scream the truth. I have $6 million in a trust fund. This house is nothing. But their cruelty choked the truth in my throat. I saw no regret in Jacob's cold, unyielding eyes. He saw me not as a mother, but as a parasite, a failure, a source of conflict he needed to eliminate. You really want me gone? I whispered, the weight of the truth heavy in my voice. You heard me, he said. Get out. He kicked my duffel bag across the floor, the thud echoing like a door slamming on our past. As I knelt, gathering my spilled clothes, my phone buzzed. It was a text from the lawyer. Your inheritance is ready. Confirmed to proceed. Jacob's shadow loomed behind me, a silent, arrogant challenge. I stared at the screen, and in a moment of icy revenge, I pressed delete. Let him think I was nothing. Let them all think it. They didn't deserve a comfortable future paid for by the woman they called useless. The door closed hard behind me, a sharp, final sound. The night air bit my skin. Beneath the pain, a spark flickered. They thought they'd crushed me, but they didn't know the truth. This was not the end. It was a reckoning. I checked into a 5-star hotel downtown, a place of marble and chandeliers that felt alien yet strangely empowering. I would use the trust fund to live as my late mother's letter had urged, not just survive. Weeks later, I was furnishing my new apartment at a high-end showroom. I was discussing a velvet navy sofa color Jacob had loved as a teenager with a kind young saleswoman named Sarah when a voice sliced the air. It was Jane, Helen's cousin. Who let her in? This isn't a thrift store. A tailor can't afford this place. Get out. Her words were a carbon copy of the scorn I'd faced at the house. A final piece of evidence that they viewed me as beneath contempt. The humiliation stung, drawing the attention of the hushed, wealthy crowd, but the old me, the one who would hold on and swallow her pain, was gone. I was anchored by Martha's words, my wise friend who'd told me, love doesn't mean letting them crush you. I reached into my bag, pulling out the notarized bank statement from the trust fund. $6 million, I said, holding it up. Is this enough to shop here? The room gasped. Jane's smirk vanished, draining to a sickly white. She grabbed the statement, stammering, this is fake. You're a fraud. Then, in a final act of mean-spirited malice, she lunged, tilting her coffee cup, the hot liquid splashing across my blouse. Oops, she sneered. Maybe you should clean that up yourself. I didn't flinch. I calmly dialed the police to report harassment and defamation. I stood tall, handing the officers the documents, my proof of wealth undeniable. Jane was forced to issue a choked, miserable apology. Justice was swift and public. I made sure to buy the sofa and a $200,000 order from Sarah, rewarding her kindness while making Jane's defeat absolute. I left the showroom, my blouse damp, but my spirit dry, clean and unbroken. Jacob, Mia, and Helen doubled down on their revenge, or rather, a desperate attempt to extract money. Jacob launched a vicious online campaign on StreamNet, titled My Mother Abandoned Me. He wept on camera, branding me a cold, rich villain who had deserted her struggling son. Thousands watched, their comments a torrent of venom for me, pity for him. He was profiting off the lies and my pain. This was the final straw. He had weaponized the last shreds of my maternal emotion for financial gain. I would not cancoo any longer. I started my own channel, The Truth About Jacob's Mother. I went live, my face calm, my voice steady. I'm Anna, the woman Jacob calls heartless. Here's the real story. I spoke of finding him in the orphanage, a frightened 3-year-old. I shared the nostalgia of sewing by his bedside. Then, I displayed the evidence, the adoption papers, the tuition receipts, and the house deed I had gifted him. I played the neighbor's security recording of Mia's cold, dismissive voice. Anna, you'd be better off as a maid. We don't need you here. The stream exploded. I leaned into the camera, my voice ringing with finality. I planned to leave my $6 million inheritance to Jacob and Mia, but they chose to discard me. I'm not heartless. I'm done being their tool. To drive the point home, I immediately donated $50,000 live to random viewers. Jacob's stream faltered as his followers flocked to mine. His desperate counterclaims only fueled the backlash. The platform moderators banned his account for defamation and fraud. His public foayed, his life, shattered. Mia, sensing the downfall, vanished. I hired a lawyer and filed a lawsuit for defamation and to reclaim the house. The court ruled in my favor. The judge ordered Jacob to pay damages and return the deed to me. Justice was served. Jacob disappeared, his presence erased from my life. I walked into the reclaimed house's empty living room. Sunlight spilled across the bare floor. The space felt like a stranger, stripped of the warmth I'd poured into it. I found the small, quiet gift a stranger had given me at the fashion show, a relic from my mother. Inside was a golden sewing needle, etched with delicate flowers, and a note. Shine as you always have, Anna. The revenge I'd exacted was complete. The justice was legally sealed. I had won the conflict, but the victory was tinged with sorrow. The loss of the boy I'd loved remained a quiet ache. I realized that my most difficult stitch had not been in any fabric, but in myself. I had sewn the pieces of my broken heart back together and chosen my own worth over a false family. I closed the door softly behind me. The house was no longer my home. Jacob had taken that, but he couldn't take my strength. The golden needle gleamed in my hand. I was free. That's my story. It's a testament to the fact that unconditional love is a gift, not a free pass for cruelty. For years, I confused sacrifice with self-erasure. I finally realized that the greatest act of love for myself and for the memory of the woman my parents raised was to demand justice. I'm 65 years old, and I'm just beginning to live. If you're watching this, I want you to know, you are not a burden. Your kindness and your worth are not measured by the depth of your sacrifice for ungrateful people. It's measured by the strength it takes to cut the final, necessary thread. Tell me, what was the hardest conflict you ever had to walk away from? Did you find justice? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to support us.